Hello, welcome to the channel Why Stories. Enjoy watching.
For my 30th birthday, my husband gave me an expensive watch I had been dreaming about for the past 2 years. But within an hour of putting it on, I started to feel worse and worse. That same day, I decided to show it to a watchmaker I knew. But when he took it apart, he nearly screamed in horror and said, "Go to the police. Right now." The sun was shining brightly on the day I turned 30. I woke up before my alarm, excited for the celebration my husband Rodrigo had planned. To be honest, 30 felt like a milestone, a moment to reflect on my life. Was I happy? Yes and no. Like most people, things hadn't turned out exactly as I had dreamed in my youth. Rodrigo gently kissed my temple, handed me a cup of coffee and a small box tied with a red satin ribbon. "Happy birthday, Isabel. May all your dreams come true." I froze, feeling my heart beat faster. Was the box really the shape I thought it was? Could it be the watch? The watch I'd been dreaming of for the last 2 years? The outrageously expensive, prestigious Arphelia from one of the oldest Swiss manufacturers, a unique mechanical watch with an intricate dial pattern, a platinum case, and gemstones instead of numbers. It cost as much as a used luxury car, and I'd never allow myself such extravagance. But sometimes, when passing the boutique, I'd stop and gaze at it. Apparently, Rodrigo had noticed. "Rody, is this what I think it is?" I whispered, afraid to believe it. "Open it and see," he smiled, his eyes twinkling mischievously. With trembling fingers, I untied the ribbon, opened the velvet box, and gasped. It was them real Arphelias. A dream come true. Exquisite, perfect down to the last detail. Even in the dim light of the bedroom, they shimmered as if made of pure light. "It can't be," I breathed, carefully lifting the watch from the box. "Rodrigo, this is a fortune. Where did you get the money?" He laughed, wrapping his arm around my shoulders. "That's your only reaction?" I feel guilty. I promise, they were paid for with honestly earned money. I saved up a little every month, took on extra work. But I admit, I wouldn't have managed alone. My mother pitched in half the amount. Those last words made me tense. Saraphina Dolores, my mother-in-law, was not the kind of person to give expensive gifts out of pure love, especially not to me. In the 6 years Rodrigo and I had been married, I'd never won her over. Always composed and impeccably polite, she had a way of looking at me that said I didn't meet her expectations, that her son, a UNAM graduate with honors, heir to a banking dynasty, and a strikingly handsome man, had ended up with, at best, an ordinary wife, a simple girl from a modest family of engineers, without particular talents or beauty. No, I didn't shine in society. After graduating in economics from a regional university, I worked for a small company that dealt in auto parts. I was an analyst, reports, forecasts, presentations, earning a modest salary, enough to live on, but certainly not enough to afford something like an Arphelia. "Your mother, Saraphina Dolores, contributed to my gift?" I asked skeptically, trying to hide my surprise. "Yes, believe it or not, she's not the villain you think she is." Rodrigo frowned slightly. His mother had always been a sensitive topic. "She said she wanted you to feel like a truly luxurious woman on your 30th birthday and that these watches suited you." I blushed, trying to see something more in this gesture than another reminder of my place, as if to say, "See, daughter-in-law, what we can afford versus what you could ever buy." The thought stung, but I pushed it away. It was my birthday, and I wouldn't let anyone, not even Saraphina Dolores, ruin it. "Thank you." I kissed my husband sincerely. "They're perfect." Rodrigo helped me fasten the bracelet. The watch fit perfectly, as if made just for me. A rare thing with mechanical watches of that level, they usually need adjusting. "How did you get the size so perfect?" I asked. "I have my ways," Rodrigo winked. "I measured you while you were sleeping. You sleep so soundly, you didn't notice a thing." I laughed, but suddenly felt lightheaded. The room seemed to spin, and a strange metallic taste filled my mouth. "What's wrong?" Rodrigo asked, concerned, as he saw me sway. Nothing serious. I took a deep breath. Probably just tired or overwhelmed. It's not every day you get a gift like this. He looked at me skeptically but didn't press. Okay, take it easy. I got off work early. I'll be home by 3. We've got a dinner reservation tonight. I nodded, mentally planning to visit the hairdresser and get a manicure. It was going to be a busy day. After Rodrigo left, I examined the watch again. It was stunning, filigree platinum, a white gold bracelet, 12 tiny rubies for numbers, a delicate lotus blossom pattern on the mother-of-pearl dial. The slender platinum hands nearly blended with the background, giving the illusion that time moved on its own, without a mechanism. I had never been obsessed with luxury, but this watch was mesmerizing. It radiated not just wealth, but true craftsmanship, the soul of its creator. I admired how the light danced off the rubies, and again, dizziness struck. This time stronger, black dots flickered before my eyes, nausea rose in my throat. I barely made it to the bathroom before vomiting. What's happening? I splashed cold water on my face and looked at my reflection, pale skin, red eyes, sweat on my forehead. Maybe it was my stomach? Yesterday, my friend Marissol and I had tried some strange seafood dish at a new Asian restaurant. Could it be mild food poisoning? I took an anti-nausea pill, but it came right back up with another wave of vomiting. The room spun, my throat burned like fire, and suddenly blood dripped from my nose. Darkness clouded my vision, and I barely stayed on my feet, clinging to the sink. Something was definitely wrong. Could Marissol be sick too? I fumbled for my phone and dialed her. Hey, ISA. Happy birthday, she chirped cheerfully. Thanks, I rasped. Listen, did you feel sick after yesterday's restaurant? I'm throwing up here. No, I feel great. Marissol said, surprised. What's going on? Maybe you're just nervous? Or, ISA, could you be pregnant? You told me you and Rhodey were trying for a baby. I flinched. Pregnant? No, I don't think so. We are trying, but it hasn't worked yet. The doctor said I have hormonal issues and prescribed treatment. But this isn't normal morning sickness. This is too intense. Plus the nosebleed and that horrible metallic taste. No, something's really wrong, I struggled to speak. Listen, I need to go. We'll talk later. I ended the call and sank onto the edge of the bathtub. My head throbbed, my body trembled. Maybe it's an allergy, I thought, glancing at the watch. Could I be allergic to some component in the mechanism, or to the bracelet metal? It happens, my cousin had to give up her favorite white gold earrings for that reason. I tried to take the watch off, but the clasp wouldn't budge. My fingers were shaking, and I had no strength left. In despair, I decided to see a professional. Just 2 blocks from our house was a watch shop owned by an elderly watchmaker named Adolfo Macario, an eccentric old man, a true master, fanatically devoted to mechanical watches. I had visited him several times to repair an old timepiece that had belonged to my grandmother. Barely managing to get dressed and freshen up, I called a taxi. Luckily, the ride took only 7 minutes. What's wrong, miss? Adolfo Macario gasped when I practically collapsed into his shop. You look like you're about to throw up on my antique Persian rug. Sorry, I whispered, sinking into the nearest chair. I need your help, I can't remove this watch, and I think I'm allergic to it. Let me see. He put on magnifying glasses and leaned over my wrist. I held out my hand, and the old man whistled. Whoa! Arphelia. A rare beauty. Where did you get this treasure? A birthday gift from my husband. He gave it to me this morning. And you've been feeling sick since then? The watchmaker asked, carefully examining the bracelet. Yes, it started about an hour after I put it on. Adolfo Macario grunted, pulled a small screwdriver from a drawer, and carefully began working on the watch's clasp. Strange, he muttered. The clasp seems jammed. Ah, here it is, there's a hidden lock. Unusual design. A minute later, the watch was in his hands. I rubbed my wrist in relief, hoping I'd start to feel better now, but the nausea and dizziness didn't go away. In fact, they were getting worse. "Please, could I have some water?" I asked, feeling the room begin to spin again. As I drank, Adolfo Macario examined the watch closely, turning it this way and that. Suddenly, his expression changed, his eyes widened in horror. "What? What is it?" I asked, alarmed by his reaction. "One moment." He rushed into the back room of the shop, leaving me confused. When he returned, he held a toolkit and a powerful magnifying glass with a built-in light. Sitting down at his desk, he turned on an additional lamp and began to disassemble the watch with extreme care. "What are you doing?" I asked, frightened. "That's a very expensive watch. I just wanted to know if it could cause an allergic reaction." "Quiet, girl." Macario was focused. "I need to check something. This watch, it's not ordinary." I fell silent, watching his aged but surprisingly steady hands at work. He removed the back of the watch, then the dial, exposing the mechanism. Suddenly he froze, his hand trembled, his face turned even paler. I saw a bead of sweat roll down his wrinkled forehead. "Oh my God," he whispered. "This can't be real." "No, no, no." He shot up, grabbed my shoulders, his eyes wide with genuine terror. "Go to the police. Right now," he said, his voice shaking. "These watches, What about them? Tell me." I felt panic rising inside me. "There's a capsule hidden inside, filled with a very rare, lethal poison. When the mechanism heats up from body temperature, the capsule slowly opens and the toxin is released through microscopic pores in the casing. The poison enters the skin. Symptoms start with dizziness, nausea, a metallic taste. Then bleeding, seizures. Girl, you need to get to a hospital and the police immediately. Someone is trying to kill you." I froze, unable to believe what I was hearing. The world seemed to stop. Poison, kill me. But who? And why? Are you sure? My voice sounded distant, like it wasn't even mine. Adolfo Macario was already sealing the watch in a plastic evidence bag. "I've worked with watches all my life. This is a modified version of an old mechanism that was used for political assassinations back in the 19th century. I've read about them, seen schematics in old books, but I never thought I'd see one in real life. Whoever made this knows exactly how to hide the poison in a modern piece." My knees buckled. My husband gave me this watch. Rodrigo, the man I'd spent 6 years with, who swore to love me forever. He wants me dead. But why? Everything was fine. We rarely argued, we were planning our future, dreaming about children. "Listen to me." Macario shook me gently, seeing me drift into shock. "There's no time to think. You must get to a hospital and the police immediately. I'll give you this evidence bag, I'm willing to testify. But you have to act fast, before the poison does permanent damage." I nodded, still unable to fully grasp what was happening. Macario helped me stand, called a taxi, and insisted I go to the nearest hospital instead of home. "And remember, girl, tell no one where you're going," he warned, escorting me to the taxi. "If someone wants you dead, they'll try again if they find out the first attempt failed." In a fog, I made it to the hospital's emergency room. I showed the on-duty doctor the watch and tried to explain what was happening. They immediately admitted me for observation, started 4 fluids, and took blood samples. The doctor called the police, and within 30 minutes, an investigator arrived, a thin, unremarkable man in his 40s with tired eyes. "Jose Enrique Vargas, Special Crimes Investigator," he introduced himself. "Tell me what happened." I repeated my story, trying not to miss a single detail. Vargas took notes, occasionally asking clarifying questions. When I finished, he studied me for a long time, as if assessing something. "You understand the seriousness of the accusation you're making against your husband?" he finally asked. "I'm not accusing anyone," I replied. "I'm just stating the facts." My husband gave me a watch that, according to the watchmaker, contains poison. I felt ill after putting it on. I don't know who did this or why. Maybe Rodrigo had no idea. Maybe someone sold him a rigged watch. The investigator nodded. We'll investigate. The watch will be sent for analysis, and we'll question everyone involved. I advise you to remain in the hospital under medical supervision. If there's poison in your system, the doctors will do everything they can. And my husband? I asked, a lump rising in my throat. Will you tell him? We'll speak to your husband, of course, he replied cautiously. But for your safety, we won't inform him that you're here, not yet. When Jose Enrique left, I was alone in the hospital room, connected to N4. Rodrigo was calling nonstop. He had probably come home and found me gone. I didn't answer. I didn't know what to say, or how to speak to someone who might have tried to kill me. The clock read 4 p.m. I was still nauseous, but the dizziness had eased, probably due to the medication. My head spun with questions I couldn't answer. Rodrigo, always so dependable, calm, rational. We met at a corporate event for my company. He was there with a mutual acquaintance. I noticed him immediately, a tall, elegant man with striking green eyes. He stood apart from the crowd, quietly charismatic. Not conventionally handsome, but magnetic. When we started talking, I was impressed by his intellect, subtle humor, and genuine interest in me. Rodrigo courted me with determination, daily calls, flowers, surprises. 3 months later he proposed. 6 months after that, we were married. It was a simple wedding, no extravagance. His mother insisted they weren't the big celebration type. Our life was steady, calm. We rarely fought, had similar tastes and interests. The only dark spot was my mother-in-law's attitude. Saraphina Dolores always kept her distance, though she was impeccably polite. But behind the politeness was clear disappointment, both in her son's choice of wife and in our failure to produce a child. We began trying for a baby soon after the wedding, but I couldn't get pregnant. I underwent numerous tests and hormone therapy. Rodrigo also got tested. He was fine. The problem was me. And the longer it went on, the more it strained our relationship. Sometimes I'd catch Rodrigo looking at me with disappointment, and it broke my heart. Maybe he was tired of waiting. Maybe he wanted to get rid of his barren wife and find someone who could give him an heir. But why such a twisted way? He could have just divorced me. Or maybe it was about money. Rodrigo didn't have personal wealth. Our main income came from his job at an investment firm, a good salary, but not enough for a luxurious lifestyle. His mother sometimes helped us financially. She paid the down payment for our apartment and gave expensive gifts. But I knew that after her death, Rodrigo would inherit a significant amount. I, on the other hand, had only modest savings and an insurance policy I took out 2 years ago at her suggestion. Every woman should have insurance for emergencies, she said then. Insurance for emergencies, or for death. A chill ran down my spine as the realization struck me. Rodrigo was the sole beneficiary on my life insurance policy. The payout was substantial, 1 million pesos. Not a fortune, but for someone who needed money, a tempting sum. Could it really be about that? Could my husband truly be trying to kill me for the money? The thought seemed absurd. And yet, what other explanation was there? A nurse entered the room, checked the 4, and asked how I was feeling. I barely heard her, lost in my dark thoughts. When she left, I finally gathered the courage to check my phone. 15 missed calls from Rodrigo, 8 messages. Where are you? Why aren't you answering? I'm worried. If something happened, at least send a word. The last message was from Mari, ISA. What's going on? Rodi called me, said you disappeared. If you're with a lover, at least let your husband know you're alive. I gave a bitter smile. A lover. If only it were that simple. The phone vibrated again. Rodrigo was calling. I hesitated, but decided to answer. I had to say something, otherwise, he might alert everyone, maybe even the police. Isabel. Finally. Where the hell are you? His voice was anxious. I took a deep breath, trying to speak calmly. I got sick. I'm in the hospital. What? Which hospital? What happened? He actually sounded scared. St. Joseph's Hospital. Poisoning, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Severe intoxication. I'm on 4 fluids. I'm coming, Rodrigo said abruptly and hung up. Panicking, I pressed the call button for the nurse. When she came running, I asked her to urgently contact Investigator Vargas. 20 minutes later, he arrived in my room. My husband is on his way, I explained, anxious. I didn't know what to say when he called, just told him I was in the hospital with poisoning, and now I'm scared. Jose Enrique frowned. Don't worry, we'll be right outside. My colleague and I will stay near the room. We won't let him hurt you. Also, this gives us a chance to observe his reaction. He might give himself away. I nodded, my heart pounding with fear. What if Rodrigo realized I had figured out his plan? What if he tried to finish what he started, right here in the hospital? About an hour passed. I lay there, straining to hear every noise outside the door. Finally, quick footsteps echoed, and Rodrigo burst into the room. His usually neat hair was messy, his tie askew, and his hands, a huge bouquet of white roses. ISA, sweetheart. He rushed toward me but stopped short when he saw my frightened look. What's wrong? What happened? I was silent, unsure what to say. My throat was tight, my hands trembling under the hospital blanket. Why are you looking at me like that? Rodrigo asked, confused, placing the bouquet on the nightstand. Are you feeling that bad? The doctors say I was poisoned, I said slowly, watching his reaction closely. Rodrigo turned pale. Poisoned? By who? How? He asked, trying to understand. From the seafood at the restaurant yesterday? I shook my head. No, not the seafood. I found out there was a capsule with poison in my new watch. Silence fell. Rodrigo stared at me, wide-eyed, his face a mix of shock and disbelief. What are you talking about? Poison? In a watch, his voice trembled. The Arphelia, the one you gave me this morning. He collapsed into a chair next to the bed, his face twisted as if in pain. That's impossible. There must be some mistake. I bought those from an official dealer. There's no way they contain poison. But I nearly died. My voice cracked. I was nauseous, had a nosebleed, I could barely stand. Oh my God, ISA. Rodrigo reached for my hand, but I pulled it away. You don't think I could, he stammered. I don't know what to think, I replied honestly. I just know you gave me the watch, and right after that, I got sick. This is madness. He clutched his head. I had nothing to do with this. I swear to you, ISA. I bought that watch because I knew how much you wanted it. I just wanted to make you happy on your birthday. At that moment, the door opened and Jose Enrique entered. Good afternoon, Rodrigo Alberto, the investigator said, showing his badge. We need to talk. Please come with me. I'm not going anywhere until someone explains what's going on. Rodrigo protested. My wife is talking about poison in a watch. This is crazy. Unfortunately, it's not, the investigator replied calmly. The lab confirmed the presence of a toxic substance in the watch mechanism. Your wife was lucky she went to a skilled watchmaker who identified the danger. A few more hours, and it would have been too late. Rodrigo turned even paler. This is some kind of mistake. I bought the watch in an official store. I have the receipt, the certificate of authenticity, all the paperwork. We'll look into everything, said Jose Enrique. But right now, we need to talk at the station. Am I under arrest? Rodrigo's eyes widened in horror. We're just having a conversation for now, the investigator replied evasively. But if you refuse to cooperate, we may have to take more formal steps. Rodrigo stood up, looking utterly devastated. He looked at me with such pain and confusion that for a moment, I actually felt sorry for him. "ISA, you know I couldn't do this," he said quietly. "I love you. Why would I ever want to hurt you?" I didn't answer. I turned away so he wouldn't see my tears. A part of me wanted to believe him, to convince myself this was a monstrous misunderstanding, but the facts told a different story. The watch he gave me contained a lethal poison. When Rodrigo and the investigator left, I was alone with my thoughts and fears. I couldn't believe that the man I had lived with for 6 years, whom I had trusted completely, could want me dead. It didn't make sense. It felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Yet the facts were undeniable. There had been other odd incidents I had overlooked or chalked up to coincidence. Like last year, when we celebrated my birthday at the summer house, and I nearly got food poisoning from mushrooms. Rodrigo had insisted I try the dish he made, even though he knew I didn't like forest mushrooms. I blamed it on the quality of the ingredients. But what if that had been the first attempt? Or the incident with my car brakes, when I narrowly avoided a crash. The mechanic said someone had deliberately cut the brake line. We thought it was just vandals. But maybe. No. That's paranoia. I can't just erase all the good between us and believe my husband has been systematically trying to kill me. There has to be another explanation. Maybe the watch was a counterfeit. Maybe Rodrigo bought it secondhand from an unverified seller to save money. But if it was a fake, why would it contain a rare poison? Who would go to the trouble of inserting a deadly capsule into a cheap fake? My phone vibrated again. It was Marissol calling. "ISA, are you okay?" "Rody called me from the police station. He says they're accusing him of trying to kill you." "What the hell is going on?" I sighed, realizing I'd have to tell her everything. Marissol listened without interrupting, then said, "Okay, I'm coming to you right now. I'll sit with you until this gets figured out. What if that psycho comes back and tries to finish the job?" "You don't need to, Mari, there's security here." The investigator promised a police officer would be stationed outside my room. "I'm coming anyway, even if it's just for 5 minutes. You're my friend. I need to be here for you. God, how could this even happen? I remember your wedding, everyone was jealous of you too. So perfect, so in love. And now this. I can't believe Rody could be capable of murder. Neither could I. And yet, if not him, then who? Someone sold him those watches, knowing they were for me. But that seemed like too elaborate a scheme. Marissol arrived half an hour later, her arms full of bags, fruit, juices, magazines. When she saw me, she gasped. "You look awful. Like you've been through a meat grinder." "Thanks for the compliment," I smiled faintly. "Sorry," she said, embarrassed. "I was just so scared for you. I still can't believe this is really happening." My friend sat beside me and took my hand. "What are the doctors saying? Are you feeling better?" "The initial treatment helped. If everything goes well, they'll let me go home the day after tomorrow." "Home?" Marissol looked at me in horror. "Are you insane? After everything that's happened, you're going back to the apartment where the man who tried to kill you still lives?" "I don't know, Mari. I don't know anything right now. Maybe Rodrigo is truly innocent. Maybe he was just a pawn in someone else's plan. Or maybe the moon is made of green cheese," she snorted. "Don't be naive. The facts speak for themselves. Who else benefits from your death? You don't have wealthy relatives leaving you an inheritance. No enemies desperate to take your place. But you do have insurance. And you know who the beneficiary is." "But $1,000,000 isn't worth killing someone over," I protested. "For you and me, maybe not, but we don't know what financial trouble Rody might be in. He could be drowning in debt. He might have problems at work. And maybe it's not even about the money. Then what is it about?" I felt the nausea returning. "I don't know," Marissol shrugged. "Maybe he met someone else. Maybe his mother is poisoning him against you. Maybe he's just tired of being married. Her words made me feel sick. It all sounded like the plot of a cheap thriller, but it was happening to me, ordinary Isabel, no dramatic life, no grand ambitions. Just this morning, I had been thrilled to receive an expensive watch. And now, someone had tried to kill me. And the person I loved most in the world might have been the one who planned it. Marissol stayed with me until the evening, trying to distract me with magazines and small talk. When she left, I asked the nurse for a sleeping pill. I was afraid I wouldn't be able to sleep without it. I woke up to someone stroking my hand. I opened my eyes and saw Saraphina Dolores. Sitting beside the bed, my mother-in-law was looking at me with an expression I couldn't decipher. Concern? Annoyance? How are you feeling, Isabel? She asked, withdrawing her hand. I sat up cautiously. Fine. What are you doing here? Rodrigo's been detained. He's been in police custody for over 24 hours. He's being accused of attempted murder because of your ridiculous allegations. I flinched at her tone. I haven't accused anyone. I just told the truth. I got sick after putting on the watch Rodrigo gave me. The watchmaker found a poison capsule in it. Those are facts, not accusations. Saraphina Dolores curled her lip in disdain. Did you consider it might have been an allergy or food poisoning? Was it really necessary to involve the police and ruin your husband's reputation? Do you even realize his career might be over? That he could go to prison because of your fantasies? This isn't a fantasy. I felt my anger rising. The lab confirmed there was poison in the watch. The doctors found toxins in my blood. This isn't an allergy or food poisoning. Anyone could have tampered with that watch, she said stubbornly. Your watchmaker, for example. Maybe he put the poison there himself and staged the whole scene to look like a hero. I stared at her in disbelief. Why would the watchmaker poison me? He barely knows me. And why would Rodrigo poison you? He loves you, cares for you, forgives all your flaws. The contempt in her voice made me shrink back. What flaws are you talking about? For starters, the fact that you can't give him a child. Saraphina Dolores looked at me like I was an insect. My friend, Dr. Elena Patricia, a well-known gynecologist, says the problem is you, not some hormonal imbalance. You're simply not meant to be a mother, and Rodrigo needs heirs. He comes from a family where tradition matters. I felt tears welling in my eyes. So he decided to kill me and marry someone more fertile? Don't be absurd, she snapped. If Rodrigo wanted to get rid of you, he would have just filed for divorce. That would be easier and safer. There was a logic to her words that I couldn't deny. Why commit a crime when divorce is an option? But then, who did this, and why? You need to retract your statement, Saraphina Dolores said sharply. Say it was a mistake, that you overreacted, misunderstood. I can't, I shook my head. There are facts I can't ignore. The watch contained poison, it got into my body, I nearly died. That's the truth, not my imagination. Then say you don't believe your husband was involved. Say you think the watch might have been a counterfeit sold to him. I hesitated. It sounded reasonable. If Rodrigo was innocent, he shouldn't go to jail. But what if this was a trap? What if his mother was trying to cover for him, knowing the truth? I'll think about it, I said vaguely. Right now, I need to rest. She pursed her lips but stood up. Think quickly, Isabel. Every hour Rodrigo spends in police custody is damaging his reputation and career. She left, leaving me in turmoil. Her visit only deepened my doubts. On one hand, her arguments were logical. On the other, she had always been a master manipulator, making me feel guilty. I glanced at the clock. It was around 10 a.m., just the time the investigator said he'd visit with updates. Jose Enrique arrived half an hour later. He sat down beside my bed and opened a folder. How are you feeling? He asked. Better, I said, propping myself up on the pillows. The doctors say the worst is over. Do you have news? Yes. And it's quite interesting. He reviewed his notes. We questioned the staff at the jewelry store where your husband supposedly bought the watch. No one remembers that purchase. In fact, they've never sold Ophelia watches. They deal with more affordable brands. I frowned. But Rodrigo said he bought it there. He even had a receipt and a certificate, which turned out to be forgeries. Jose Enrique showed me a photo of the document. Look at the seal, it's blurry and smudged. Experts say it's a low-quality fake. I looked at the photo, feeling the blood drain from my face. So he lied? Seems that way, the investigator nodded. But that's not the most interesting part. We examined your watch more thoroughly. It is a genuine Ophelia, not a fake, but it's been heavily modified, specifically with that poison capsule. Experts say only a highly skilled watchmaker could do such work. So Rodrigo ordered that modification? Possibly. Jose Enrique paused. But there's another theory. Your husband doesn't have the money to buy an Ophelia. These watches cost as much as a good car. Based on the financial documents we reviewed, your household lives modestly, mortgage, car loan. Your husband has a decent salary, but not enough for such extravagance. He said his mother covered half the cost, I recalled. That's the suspicious part. He tapped his pen on the folder. We checked Saraphina Dolores's bank accounts. There haven't been any large withdrawals in the past month. I went cold. You think my mother-in-law is involved? It's too early to draw conclusions, Jose Enrique replied cautiously. But there's something else. Did you know your mother-in-law recently took out a large life insurance policy on her son in case of death or disability? What? I stared at the investigator in shock. No. Rodrigo never mentioned that. The policy was taken out 3 months ago. The sum is significant, 5 million pesos. The beneficiary is Saraphina Dolores. But what does that have to do with me? If the insurance is on Rodrigo, why would someone want to kill me? He looked at me carefully. Have you considered that maybe you weren't the intended final victim? I froze, confused. What do you mean? Maybe someone wanted you to die of poisoning and Rodrigo to be suspected and arrested. In prison, a man accused of trying to kill his wife might not survive long. Inmates don't like those kinds of crimes. A chill ran down my spine. Could someone want to eliminate both of us, me physically, Rodrigo through prison? But who would gain from that? Saraphina? She loves her son, albeit in a possessive way. She would never wish him harm. On the contrary, she'd do anything to protect him. I don't understand, I murmured. It's all too much. We're continuing the investigation, Jose Enrique said, closing the folder. Your husband remains in custody. There's sufficient evidence for suspicion. And my mother-in-law? Will you interrogate her? Absolutely, he nodded. She's been summoned for tomorrow. After Jose Enrique left, I lay in bed for a long time staring at the ceiling. Theories spun in my head, each one more incredible than the last. What if it wasn't Rodrigo who tried to kill me, but someone trying to frame him? But who and why? His mother-in-law? But that would mean her own son would go to prison. A rival at work? But why go to such lengths when they could just fire him? My head started hurting again from all the thoughts. I closed my eyes, trying to calm down, but all I could see was my husband's face, confused, frightened, when he heard about the poisoning. Was that reaction genuine, or a well-rehearsed act? I tried to remember any signs I might have missed. Had Rodrigo changed lately? Become distant, irritable? But no, he'd been the same as always, attentive, caring. True, sometimes I caught him watching me with a strange, pensive look, as if he were evaluating something. But could that really be proof of malicious intent? A call broke through my dark thoughts. It was Liliana, my colleague from work. Isabel, I just heard from Mari. Oh my God, what a nightmare. Are you okay? Are you alive? I'm alive, I said with a weak smile. The doctors say I'll be okay. Are you sure it was Rhodey? It can't be. He always seemed like such a decent man, so polite, so thoughtful. I remember when he came to the office with flowers for you, every girl was jealous. I don't know anything, I replied wearily. The police are investigating. Oh my God. And I just saw him the other day outside your building. I stiffened. What do you mean, the other day? He's in police custody. Well, maybe it wasn't yesterday, maybe the day before, Liliana corrected herself. I was driving past your place on the way to the store and saw Rhodey standing outside with some woman. I was surprised to see him there at that hour, with a woman. My heart began to race. What woman? I don't know, I couldn't see clearly. She was tall, slim, dark hair. I was driving, so I didn't get a good look, and I didn't think much of it, maybe a colleague or a friend. I tried to recall all the women Rodrigo knew. There were a few in his department, but none that matched the description. Unless... Was she carrying an umbrella? I asked, feeling a chill run down my spine. Yes, I think so. Liliana replied hesitantly. It was raining, and she had a bright umbrella. Red, I believe. A red umbrella, only one woman I knew had one like that, Marissol, my best friend. I thanked Liliana for the call and hung up, panic washing over me. Marissol and Rodrigo together? What were they talking about, and why had neither of them mentioned the meeting? Thousands of thoughts swirled in my mind, each more horrifying than the last. What if Marissol and Rodrigo were a couple? What if the poisoning had been their plan? Mari always admired my husband, always said how lucky I was. Maybe that admiration hid something deeper? But why kill me? Rodrigo could have simply divorced me if he'd fallen in love with someone else. Unless... I remembered our prenuptial agreement. If Rodrigo left me, he had no right to any of our shared property, apartment, car, summer house, all would remain mine. But if I died, everything would go to him as my legal spouse. Could that be the motive? Did Rodrigo and Marissol decide to get rid of me so they could be together and keep everything? It sounded like the plot of a cheap thriller, not real life. Besides, Mari had been my friend since childhood. We went to school and university together, shared everything. She couldn't have betrayed me. Or could she? I recalled how Marissol had reacted to the poisoning, shocked, frightened, ready to rush over in the middle of the night to be with me. Could someone guilty of the crime behave that way? Or was that the perfect act? My mind refused to believe in betrayal by those closest to me. There had to be another explanation. Maybe they had met to discuss my birthday. Maybe they were planning a surprise, or Mari needed advice. But then, why didn't either of them mention it? Why keep it a secret? I decided to test my suspicion and called Mari. Her phone was off. I sent a message, call me as soon as you're free. Urgent. Marissol called back an hour later. Her voice was as cheerful and energetic as always. Hey ISA. How are you? What's going on? I tried to keep my voice calm. Just wanted to ask, when was the last time you saw Rodrigo? A short pause. Noticeable. At the hospital, when I came to see you. He was leaving with the officer, she finally said. Why? That's strange, I said slowly. Liliana says she saw the two of you outside our place just a couple days ago. Another pause. Longer. Oh, right, Mari laughed awkwardly. I totally forgot. I stopped by to check on you, but you weren't home. Rhodey was just leaving the building. We said a few words, that's all. And you didn't mention it to me? My voice trembled. Come on, ISA. What was there to say? I asked where you were, he said he didn't know. We went our separate ways. That's it. But I heard the lie in her voice, something was definitely off. Marissol, I took a deep breath, listen, I'm in a really difficult situation. Someone tried to kill me. My husband is a suspect. I don't know what to think, and I can't trust anyone. Please, tell me the truth. What's going on between you and Rodrigo? Silence. Then a quiet sigh. I didn't want you to find out this way. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Rhodey and we have something. It felt like a punch to the gut. I had suspected, but I wasn't ready to hear it spoken aloud. How long? I managed. 6 months, Marissol confessed. It started by accident. We ran into each other at a cafe while you were on a business trip. We talked, met again. I didn't plan it, I swear. It just happened. So that's why you decided to kill me? I shouted. What? No. God, what are you saying? Marissol sounded genuinely horrified. We never wanted to hurt you. Yes, we're involved, but we weren't planning anything. Rhodey didn't want to hurt you with a divorce, especially with your health issues lately. We were just waiting for the right moment to tell you. I let out a bitter laugh. So instead he gave me a poisoned watch to avoid hurting me with a divorce? No, Rhodey would never do that, He still loves you, in his own way. Not like before, but he respects and values you. He'd never harm you. Then who did? Who tried to kill me? I don't know. Marissol's voice broke. I really don't. But it wasn't Rhodey, and it definitely wasn't me. We would never. I ended the call. I couldn't listen anymore. Pain, betrayal, rage, all churned inside me like a storm. I'd been betrayed twice, by the two people I trusted most, my husband and my best friend. I didn't know if I believed their innocence. On one hand, Rodrigo had a motive. On the other, that made him the most obvious suspect, too obvious. Would he risk so much? But if not them, then who? Only one other person knew about Rodrigo's feelings for Marissol and could have used it to their advantage, Saraphina Dolores. She had never liked me, thought I wasn't good enough for her son. What if she found out about his affair with Mari and decided to help remove the problematic wife, freeing her son for a new relationship? But then, why was the gift from Rodrigo? Why a watch supposedly bought by him? The answer struck me like a bolt of lightning, because Saraphina Dolores wanted the suspicion to fall on her son, wanted him to be arrested. With the life insurance policy in her name, she would get everything, the apartment, the car, and most importantly, 5 million pesos. It sounded insane, a mother wanting her son in prison for money. Unthinkable. And yet, Saraphina had always controlled Rodrigo's life. He wasn't just a person to her, but an extension of her ego, a tool for her ambitions. What if her love had long twisted into something dark and monstrous? I remembered her visit that morning, how she had demanded I withdraw my testimony against Rodrigo. Maybe it wasn't out of concern for her son, but to protect herself. If I withdrew, the investigation would end, and her plan would remain hidden. My head was spinning from it all, each theory more insane than the last. I didn't know who or what to believe. But one thing I was sure of, someone wanted me dead, and that someone was one of the people closest to me. I picked up my phone and called Jose Enrique. Jose Enrique, it's Isabel, I said when he answered. I need to talk to you urgently. I have new information, very important information. I'm listening, the investigator's voice sounded cautious. Not over the phone, I lowered my voice. It's about my husband and his relationship with my friend, and also about his mother and the insurance. I'll be there in 30 minutes, Jose Enrique said after a brief pause, then hung up. I sank back against the pillow, feeling strangely empty. A difficult conversation awaited, perhaps the hardest of my life, but I was ready. Ready to hear the truth, no matter how painful, because I could no longer live in a lie. Even if the truth destroyed everything I had believed in, everything I loved, it was still better than existing in a world of fake smiles and deadly gifts. I looked at my reflection in the hospital window, pale face, dark circles, dull eyes. 30, the age when you're supposed to take stock of your life and plan the future. And here I was, in a hospital after an attempted poisoning, unsure of who I could trust. "Happy birthday, Isabel," I whispered to my reflection. "Welcome to real adult life." I ended up waiting longer than 30 minutes. Something must have come up. Jose Enrique didn't arrive until evening. He looked tired, but focused. "Sorry for the delay," he said, sitting beside the bed. "Some new developments came up in the case. I wanted to go over them before we spoke." "What developments?" I asked warily. "We received the toxicology results from the watch," the investigator said, opening a folder. "The poison used in the capsule is extremely rare, almost impossible to obtain for an ordinary person. It's a derivative of aconitine, a powerful organic toxin used only in certain scientific laboratories." "And what does that mean?" I asked, not quite following. "It means," Jose Enrique said carefully, "that your mother-in-law, Saraphina Dolores, used to be a research associate at UNAM's chemistry faculty. She specialized in organic chemistry, specifically plant alkaloids." I felt the blood drain from my face. "You think she was involved in the poisoning?" "It's just a theory for now," Jose Enrique replied cautiously, "but a very likely one, especially in light of the insurance policy she took out on her son. Now, tell me what you wanted to share." I took a deep breath and began recounting everything: Liliana's call, my conversation with Marissol, her confession about her affair with Rodrigo, and my suspicions about Saraphina. The investigator listened attentively, jotting notes. When I finished, he tapped his pen thoughtfully against the page. "Interesting," he said finally. "Your version aligns with several facts we've uncovered. For example, we learned that Saraphina Dolores recently withdrew a large amount of cash from her bank account. The purpose is unknown, but the amount is enough to buy a luxury watch on the black market. You think she bought the watch, modified it, and gave it to me pretending it was from Rodrigo?" I still couldn't believe such cruelty. "It's entirely possible," Jose Enrique nodded, "especially given how she's always controlled your husband's life. It's conceivable that, upon learning of his affair with your friend, she decided to act drastically, eliminate you, frame her son, and once he's in prison, or dead, collect the insurance money. That's monstrous. What kind of mother could do such a thing?" "Unfortunately," the investigator said with a shake of his head, "we often see cases where family ties don't prevent crime. Sometimes, family relationships become a weapon instead of a shield." I understood exactly what he meant. Seraphina's love for her son had always been possessive, almost pathological. She didn't love him as a person, but as an extension of herself, a reflection of her success. And if he betrayed her by falling in love with someone else, someone she didn't choose? "What happens now?" I asked, my insides tightening with fear and disgust. "We'll investigate this theory," Jose Enrique closed his notebook. "We'll search your mother-in-law's apartment and interrogate her thoroughly. If we find any evidence, we'll charge her." "And Rodrigo? Is he still in custody?" "Yes, but the situation is changing. If the evidence points to his mother instead of him, we'll release him." I nodded, uncertain how I felt about that. On one hand, if Rodrigo wasn't guilty of attempted murder, he didn't deserve to be in jail. On the other hand, he had betrayed me. He cheated with my best friend. Our marriage was broken, and there was no going back. "I recommend staying in the hospital a few more days," the investigator added as he stood. "At least until we apprehend the real culprit. For your safety." "You think there might be another attempt?" "Better to be cautious," Jose Enrique said evasively. "If someone is willing to kill, they don't usually stop after one failed attempt." After he left, I lay awake for a long time, tossing and turning. Thoughts of Rodrigo's betrayal mingled with the horror of his mother's possible involvement in an attempt on my life. And the bitterness of realizing that Marissol, my childhood friend, had so easily stepped over our friendship. I tried to remember if there had been signs I'd missed, perhaps a glance between Rodrigo and Marissol, changes in his behavior. His recent distance I'd attributed to work stress and our struggles with pregnancy. But I should have looked deeper. It had been happening right in front of me. Then I recalled the strange behavior of my mother-in-law, her insistence that we take out life insurance, her veiled hostility masked by politeness, her constant meddling in our lives. Was she really capable of such a heinous crime? Could a loving mother truly want her son in prison, even for money? It was hard to believe. But as Jose Enrique had said, family ties don't always protect against betrayal. Sometimes they cause it. Eventually, I drifted into a troubled sleep. Just before dawn, I dreamed of Marissol in a red dress, holding the Orfilio watch in her hands. She smiled as she handed it to me, and behind her stood Saraphina Dolores, her eyes strange and terrifying. "Wear it in good health," Mari said, her voice hissing like a snake. I awoke to noise in the corridor, raised voices, hurried footsteps, a shout. Something was happening. I sat up in bed, trying to understand. A nurse burst into the room, visibly frightened. "Police and your husband are here. They say something terrible has happened." My heart skipped a beat. Rodrigo was free? And what did she mean by something terrible? Before I could react, Jose Enrique and Rodrigo entered the room. My husband looked terrible, pale, drawn, with dark circles under his eyes. Jose Enrique was grim. "What happened?" I asked, a chill creeping through me. "Isabel," the investigator began slowly, choosing his words, "we have bad news. Your friend Marissol has been found dead." I froze, unable to believe what I'd heard. "What? How? When?" "This morning. In her apartment. Preliminary cause, poisoning with the same substance used in the watch." The room swam before my eyes. Marissol, dead, poisoned with the same toxin. But how? Why? Rodrigo slumped into a chair and buried his face in his hands. His shoulders shook. He was crying. "I don't understand," I whispered. "Who?" "We believe your mother-in-law is responsible," Jose Enrique said calmly, though tension was visible in his eyes. "We searched her apartment this morning. We found traces of the same poison used in the watch, along with several empty perfume bottles modified to release toxic gas when sprayed." God! Nausea rose in my throat. "And my mother-in-law? Did you arrest her?" "That's the problem," the investigator shook his head. "She disappeared. She left the apartment before we arrived. She's now being actively sought. She's insane." Rodrigo muttered hoarsely, lifting his tear-streaked face to me. "All these years I didn't see it, or didn't want to. But she's sick. Obsessed with control, with power. She always made decisions for me, where I studied, where I worked, who I was friends with. When I married you without her blessing, she pretended to accept it, but she was planning revenge. And when she found out about Marissol..." "How did she find out?" I asked, though I already guessed the answer. "I told her myself," Rodrigo confessed. 2 months ago. I said I wanted a divorce. That I'd fallen in love with someone else. I thought she would help me figure out how to do it in the least painful way for everyone. But he covered his face with his hands again, unable to go on. She decided to eliminate both women who, in her eyes, were taking her son away. Jose Enrique finished for him. Then she planned to frame Rodrigo Alberto, so he would end up in prison. The perfect plan, her son, locked up and fully dependent on her, both rivals dead. And as a bonus, $5 million from the insurance. But why kill Mari now? I still couldn't grasp what had happened. The first plan already failed. "We're considering her motive," the investigator said. "It might have been revenge. Or perhaps she was trying to cover her tracks by eliminating witnesses. Your friend might have known something that threatened Saraphina Dolores, or it could simply be a continuation of the original plan, to remove both women who, in her twisted logic, took her son away." Rodrigo lifted his head, his eyes were full of pain. "Isabel, I know you probably hate me right now. I betrayed you with Mari, I hid my feelings, I lied. But I swear, I never wanted to hurt you. When I found out you were in the hospital, that someone tried to poison you, I was horrified. And now, Mari is dead, and I'm terrified my mother won't stop. She'll come after you again until she gets what she wants. We'll increase security at the hospital, Jose Enrique assured. And you, Rodrigo Alberto, I ask that you remain under police protection. You're in danger too. But how could she do this to Mari? I still couldn't believe it was real. How did she get into her apartment? How did she poison her? We don't know all the details yet, the investigator replied. But there were signs of forced entry at the scene, and we found an empty perfume bottle. It might have been a gift from your mother-in-law, or she may have sprayed the contents after breaking in. I remembered Marissol mentioning last week that someone had left a strange gift at her door, a box of expensive perfume, no note. She joked that she finally had a secret admirer. It had been death, wrapped in a pretty box. I have to be with Rodrigo, I suddenly declared, getting out of bed. If his mother is targeting us both, we need to stick together. Isabel, you don't have to, Rodrigo shook his head. Not after everything I've done. This isn't about you, I said, surprisingly calm. It's about the fact that your mother killed my best friend and tried to kill me. I want her to pay for everything, and for that, we need to work together. Jose Enrique looked at me intently. Are you sure you're ready for that? The doctors say you still need rest. I'm sure, I said firmly. What do you propose? We have a plan, the investigator lowered his voice. We want to set a trap for Saraphina Dolores. But we'll need your help. I'm in, I said without hesitation. What do I need to do? Rodrigo looked at me in surprise and gratitude. Thank you, he said quietly. You have no idea how much this means to me. I nodded, but inside I felt only cold determination. I wasn't doing this for him, I was doing it for Marissol, for myself, for justice, and to stop the monstrous evil hiding behind the mask of motherly love. So, here's our plan, Jose Enrique said, leaning closer. That day, a detailed operation was developed to catch Saraphina Dolores. I was to be discharged from the hospital with the announcement that the danger had passed. Rodrigo would pretend to invite me to stay with him until his mother was caught. In reality, the apartment would be under police surveillance, every corner wired with hidden cameras. The goal, to provoke Saraphina Dolores into acting, to force her out of hiding. She'll definitely try to finish what she started, Jose Enrique said confidently. Especially when she sees that you and Rodrigo are back together. It'll destroy her plans. The plan was risky, but I saw no other option. Saraphina Dolores was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. She had already killed Marissol and tried to kill me, twice. Who knew what she would do next? The next 2 days I spent in the hospital, recovering and mentally preparing for the operation. Rodrigo visited daily, but we hardly talked about anything personal, just about the plan, about the details of the upcoming game. It was strange to sit beside a man I had loved for 6 years, with whom I had planned a future, and know there was nothing left between us. He had betrayed me, chosen someone else, and now that someone was dead. And we had to pretend to be a couple to catch a killer. Sometimes, looking at Rodrigo's gaunt face and hollow eyes, I tried to understand what he felt. He had lost his lover, discovered his mother was a murderer, and now had to play the role of a devoted husband beside the woman he had betrayed. Was he genuinely grieving Marissol's death? Did he regret ever telling his mother about their affair? Or was he just afraid of what Saraphina Dolores might do next? I didn't ask. I didn't want to know. To me, Rodrigo was just a partner in this dangerous play, nothing more. Once we caught his mother, we would go our separate ways forever. On the 3rd day, I was discharged from the hospital. As planned, I went home with Rodrigo, creating the illusion of reconciliation. The apartment was already rigged with hidden microphones and cameras. Plainclothes officers were stationed in neighboring buildings, everything ready for the moment Saraphina Dolores would show up. Are you sure you're up for this? Rodrigo asked as we rode in a taxi from the hospital. It's dangerous. I'll understand if you want out. I'm fine, I replied curtly, staring out the window. I'm used to playing the happy wife. He flinched but said nothing. The rest of the ride was silent. The apartment looked the same walls, same furniture, same photos on the shelves. But it wasn't my home anymore, and the man beside me was no longer my husband. Everything felt foreign, cold, hostile. You can take the bedroom, Rodrigo said, letting me in first. I'll sleep in the living room. I nodded and entered the room that not long ago had been ours. I dropped my bag on the bed and looked around. Now I had to play my role, pretend everything was fine, that we were back together. I had to act natural, speak loudly enough for the microphones to pick up, and make sure I didn't give myself away with a single word or gesture. Are you hungry? Rodrigo stood in the doorway, shifting awkwardly. I could cook something or order in. Order in, I said. I didn't want him cooking for me. It would feel too much like the past, like those evenings we spent dining and talking about our day. Pizza, maybe. He nodded and left to place the order. I was alone, unpacking, pajamas, a few changes of clothes, toiletries, everything I'd need for the next few days. I tried not to think about the fact that Saraphina Dolores was likely watching us from somewhere nearby, waiting for the right moment to strike. I tried not to picture Marissol's pale face in the crime scene photo they'd shown me at the hospital. I tried not to notice how badly my hands were shaking. The pizza arrived quickly. Rodrigo and I sat at the kitchen table, pretending to eat like a normal couple. We talked about trivial things, avoiding eye contact. He told me about the police questioning, how shocked he was when he learned the watch had been poisoned. I nodded, pretending to listen, but my mind was far away. Suddenly, Rodrigo's phone rang. He jumped, looked at the screen, and went pale. It's my mom, he whispered, showing me the caller ID. I nodded. Our eyes met. This was it. Rodrigo switched to speaker and answered. Mom? Where are you? The police are looking for you. Rodrigo, darling. Saraphina Dolores' voice was soft, almost purring. How are you? Have they finally released you from that dreadful station? They have, yes. Because I had nothing to do with the poisoned watch. But you seem to have a problem. They found traces of poison in your apartment. Nonsense, she scoffed. The police always look in the wrong place. I just left town for a few days to visit an old friend, and they've made a whole drama out of it. How's Isabel, by the way? Still in the hospital? No. She's with me now. Rodrigo looked at me. We decided it would be safer this way, until the real culprit is caught. A pause. A long, tense pause. I see, Saraphina Dolores finally said, her voice now edged with ice. She's not afraid to be near you after everything that happened? You were suspected of trying to kill her, after all. We've cleared everything up, Rodrigo said firmly. Isabel knows I had nothing to do with the poisoning. We're trying to rebuild our relationship. Your relationship? Now her voice was openly irritated. And what about that girl, Marissol, the one you spoke so fondly of? The one you claimed to love? Marissol is dead, Mother, Rodrigo said quietly but firmly. She was found poisoned with the same toxin that was in the watch. And I'm beginning to believe the two cases are connected. Another pause. I could hear Saraphina Dolores' heavy breathing. How awful, she finally said, with not a hint of genuine sorrow in her voice. But perhaps it's for the best. Now there's nothing standing in the way of you and Isabel being together. A chill ran down my spine. Such coldness, such indifference to a person's death. Saraphina Dolores didn't even try to pretend she was mourning. Mother, you need to come to the police. Rodrigo urged. Tell them where you've been, show proof of your innocence. Otherwise, you'll remain the prime suspect. Rodrigo, her voice hardened, I'll decide for myself when and where I go. For now, enjoy your time together. I'm very glad you're back with Isabel, as it should be. The call ended. Rodrigo stared at me, eyes wide. She knows, he whispered. She knows she's a suspect and she's still playing the game. And she will come. I was sure of it. She wouldn't be able to accept that her plan failed, that we were still together. She would try to finish what she started. Rodrigo nodded, his face even more drawn. I never thought she was capable of something like this. She was always strict, demanding, but murder? I can't wrap my head around it. Love can turn into obsession, I said quietly. And obsession knows no limits. We contacted Jose Enrique and told him about the call. He confirmed that the signal couldn't be traced, she had used a disposable SIM card. Be extremely cautious, the investigator warned. Especially with food and drink. Don't accept anything from outside, and don't open the door to strangers. My people are everywhere, but Saraphina Dolores is resourceful and dangerous. We promised to follow all instructions, but despite every precaution, fear lingered. It was terrifying to know that somewhere nearby lurked a woman willing to kill to get what she believed was hers. The evening dragged on painfully slowly. Rodrigo and I sat in the living room, pretending to watch TV, but in reality, both of us were listening intently to every sound outside, every creak of the floorboards. I caught myself sniffing the air, afraid I'd smell something strange, a sign of poison. Maybe some tea? Rodrigo asked around 11. Or would you rather go to bed? You just got out of the hospital, you need rest. Tea, I agreed. And I think we should sleep in the same room tonight. For safety. Rodrigo looked surprised, but nodded. You're right. That would be safer. He went to the kitchen to prepare the tea while I remained in the living room, staring out at the dark street. Somewhere out there, in the lights of the city, Saraphina Dolores was hiding. Was she watching us right now? Planning her next move? Rodrigo returned with 2 cups. We drank in silence, each lost in our thoughts. Around midnight, we decided to go to bed. Rodrigo insisted I take the bed while he lay down on an inflatable mattress on the floor. In the darkness, I listened to his breathing. Once, that sound used to calm me, make me feel safe. Now it was only a reminder of betrayal, of broken trust. Isabel, Rodrigo whispered. Are you awake? Yes, I replied, staring at the ceiling. I just wanted to say. I know it doesn't change anything, but I truly regret hurting you. Betraying your trust. You deserved better. I didn't know what to say. His words sounded sincere, but what difference did they make? Everything was shattered, and no apology could piece together the fragments of our marriage. I know after everything that's happened, you probably can't forgive me, Rodrigo continued. I'm not asking you to. I just want you to know, I never wanted to hurt you. I really did love you. I just fell in love with someone else, I finished for him. It happens, Rodrigo. People fall in and out of love, they leave for others. That's not the issue. The issue is how you handled it. You could have been honest. You could have told me about your feelings for Marissol. We could have divorced civilly, without lies, without betrayal. But you chose a different path. And now Mari is dead, and your mother is a murderer. Everything has a price. I know, he said softly. And I'll pay that price for the rest of my life. We fell silent again. After a while, his breathing became deep and even, he had fallen asleep. I lay with my eyes open, thinking how strangely life had turned, 30 years old, a milestone birthday, a new chapter, and here I was, lying in a room with the man who had betrayed me, waiting for his murderous mother to show up. If someone had told me this story a week ago, I would have laughed it off as a bad thriller script. But this was my reality now, my life turned upside down. I didn't notice when I finally drifted into a troubled sleep. I dreamed of Marissol, pale, hollow-eyed, reaching toward me, whispering something I couldn't understand. Then Saraphina Dolores appeared, holding a perfume bottle, smiling with a chilling grin. Wear it in good health, Mari's voice hissed like a snake. I woke to a loud knock at the door. I sat up abruptly, my heart pounding. Rodrigo woke too, jumping to his feet. Who is it? he whispered, glancing at the clock, 5:30 a.m. I don't know, I whispered back. Maybe it's the police? The knock came again, more insistent. Then a voice. Rodrigo, open up. It's me, Mom. We froze, exchanging terrified glances. Saraphina Dolores was here, at our door. What should we do? I could barely breathe from the fear. Stick to the plan, Rodrigo said. He was pale but resolute. I'll open the door. You stay here. Don't come out until I call you. He grabbed his phone, quickly sent the message, the signal to the police that Saraphina Dolores had arrived, and stepped out, shutting the bedroom door firmly behind him. I heard him walking down the hallway, then the door opening. Then her voice, unexpectedly warm and tender. Rodrigo, darling. I missed you so much. Mom, what are you doing here? Rodrigo's voice was tense. The police are looking for you. The entire city's on alert. That's exactly why I came. We need to talk, seriously. I heard her step into the apartment and take off her shoes. Where's your wife? Still asleep? She needs rest after the hospital. Of course, of course. Poor thing, she's been through so much. I'm so happy you're back together, Rodrigo. Just like I said, she's right for you. Not like that upstart Marissol. I held my breath, listening. Her voice sounded sincere, no hint of guilt over having poisoned Marissol. Either she was a brilliant actress, or... Mom, stop. Rodrigo's voice was tight. The police believe you poisoned Marissol with the same toxin that was in Isabel's watch. They have evidence. Nonsense, she scoffed. I didn't poison anyone, neither your wife nor that little girlfriend of yours. Then why are you hiding? Why didn't you go to the police and prove your innocence? Because they wouldn't listen, her voice grew harder. They've already decided I'm guilty. They'd arrest me, throw me in a cell, and who knows when they'd let me out. My heart is weak, Rodrigo. You know I wouldn't survive treatment like that. What are you suggesting? Rodrigo asked cautiously, as if afraid to spook his mother. I've found a way to prove my innocence. Saraphina Dolores lowered her voice, and I had to strain to hear her. I have footage from the security cameras at my house. You can clearly see a woman breaking into my apartment while I'm away. I think she planted the poison to frame me. And who is this woman? Rodrigo's voice held a note of skepticism. I can't see her face clearly, but the figure looks very much like your wife, Saraphina Dolores said confidently. I think Isabel staged the whole thing, poisoned herself with a small dose just enough to survive but create the impression of an attempted murder. And then, when you became a suspect, she decided to poison Marissol too, to ensure you ended up behind bars. I barely held back a cry of outrage. What a monstrous lie. Saraphina Dolores wasn't just trying to wriggle out of trouble, she was flipping the entire situation upside down, turning me into the villain. It was absurd. Why would Isabel do that? What motive would she have? Oh, there are plenty of motives, she said passionately. Maybe she found out about your affair with Marissol and wanted revenge on you both. Maybe she wanted to claim the insurance money or your apartment after your arrest. Maybe she just went insane from jealousy. Women are capable of anything, Rodrigo, especially women who feel betrayed. And where is this video? Rodrigo didn't take the bait. I have it on a flash drive. I heard the rustling as Saraphina Dolores presumably retrieved something from her purse. Let's watch it together, you'll see for yourself. But let's go into the bedroom. I don't want your wife overhearing us. I froze. The bedroom, that's where I was hiding. They were coming here. What should I do? I looked around frantically. Hide in the closet? Under the bed? Or pretend to be asleep? I had to decide instantly. I slid under the blanket, closed my eyes, and pretended to sleep. A few seconds later, the door opened quietly. She's asleep, Rodrigo whispered. Perfect, Saraphina Dolores replied in the same hushed tone. Let's sit by the window so we don't wake her. I'll show you the video. I heard them walk over to the small table by the window, the chairs creaking as they sat down. Then a soft click, presumably Saraphina Dolores inserting the flash drive into Rodrigo's laptop, which always sat on that table. Watch closely, she whispered. See this? That's the entrance to my building, and there's a woman entering. Look at the walk, the silhouette. Doesn't it look like your wife? The quality is too poor, Rodrigo replied. I can't say for sure who that is. But it's definitely a woman, she insisted. And she's entering my building at the exact time I wasn't home. I lay there holding my breath, afraid to even twitch. My limbs were aching from staying still, but I endured. The success of the entire operation depended on Saraphina Dolores believing I was fast asleep, unaware of their conversation. All right, let's say it is a woman, Rodrigo's voice remained skeptical. But why do you assume it's Isabel? It could be anyone, a neighbor, a concierge, even someone who entered the wrong building by mistake. Look closer. Saraphina Dolores was losing patience. That's her bob haircut, just like your wife's. And her walk. I'd recognize that slouch anywhere. Always hunched like the world's about to fall on her. I flinched inwardly. Saraphina Dolores always knew how to wound, how to hit where it hurt. Even in this moment, she couldn't resist a jab at me. Mom, I don't believe this theory, Rodrigo said calmly but firmly. Isabel isn't capable of something like this. She wouldn't poison herself just to frame me. It's madness. And your affair with her best friend isn't enough to drive her mad, his mother countered, her voice sharp as steel. Women are unpredictable, Rodrigo, especially when they've been betrayed. She could have snapped. No. I know her. She wouldn't do that. Then who? Who poisoned the watch? Who killed your lover? Saraphina Dolores' voice was rising. If we rule out your wife, that leaves me. Is that what you really believe? That your own mother is a murderer? Silence. I heard Rodrigo sigh deeply. I don't know what to believe anymore, he said at last. But I know the police have evidence against you. They found traces of the toxin in your apartment. They found modified perfume bottles designed to disperse poisonous gas, and that same toxin was found in Marissol's body. Planted. Saraphina Dolores snapped, then lowered her voice again. It was all planted. I'm telling you, someone is trying to frame me. And who would want to frame you, Mom? Who has access to rare toxins used only in scientific labs? Who has enough medical knowledge to calculate the exact dose to kill someone? I felt the tension in the room shift. Something had changed, maybe a gesture or a glance I couldn't see. What are you saying, Rodrigo? Her voice was weak, trembling. You don't think that I could? I don't know, Mom, Rodrigo replied wearily. But I need the truth, for myself, for Isabel, even for Marissol's memory. I need to know what really happened. A long pause followed. I didn't dare breathe, every muscle in my body was rigid with anticipation. I meant well, Saraphina Dolores' voice changed, childlike, almost pleading. I always wanted the best for you, Rodrigo. From the moment you were born, you were my sunshine, my purpose, my pride. I gave up everything for you, my career, my personal life, my health, just so you could be happy, so you could have the best. I know, Rodrigo replied gently. And I'm grateful for that. And then she came along, bitterness crept into her voice. That girl from nowhere. No connections, no refinement, no future. And you decided to marry her. Her. When you could have had any daughter of your father's business partners who studied in London. Or that sweet granddaughter of the academician, remember when I introduced you? But no, you chose her. I loved her, Mom, Rodrigo said quietly. I loved her then, and she loved me. Isn't that enough? Love? Saraphina Dolores scoffed. What is love? A temporary lapse in judgment, a hormonal spike. It fades, Rodrigo, it always fades. And what remains? Connections, assets, status, children. And your Isabel couldn't even give you a child. 6 years of marriage, nothing. What kind of woman is that? It hurt to hear those words, but I lay perfectly still, pretending to sleep. Every word from her mouth was a knife, but also confirmation of what I had long suspected. She had always despised me, always considered me unworthy of her son. So what should I have done? Rodrigo's voice carried irritation. Divorce her just because we haven't been able to have a baby? Yes, exactly. Saraphina Dolores said sharply. Find a woman who could give you healthy heirs, continue our family, our lineage. Don't you see how important that is? Mom, Isabel, and I went to doctors. She has a hormonal imbalance, but it's treatable. We would have become parents, it just takes time. Time? Saraphina mimicked scornfully. Time is slipping away, Rodrigo. You're already 35. Then it'll be 40, 50. And what then? Still waiting for this barren woman to maybe give you a child someday? And if she never can? What then? There's IVF, surrogacy, even adoption, Rodrigo replied tiredly, like this conversation had happened many times before. You're exaggerating the problem. No, you're the one who doesn't grasp the seriousness, she hissed, and her whisper was so venomous I involuntarily shuddered. That woman, she's your mistake. I tolerated her for 6 years, hoping you'd see for yourself that she wasn't right for you. And then you met Marissol. And you know what? At first, I was happy. I thought, finally, Rodrigo has found real love, a worthy woman. He'll divorce that burden of a wife. But no. You came to me and said, Mommy, I'm in love, but I don't know how to tell Isabel without hurting her feelings. Her feelings? What about your future? Mom, stop it. Rodrigo raised his voice. You've crossed every line. No. You crossed the line when you brought that woman into our family. Saraphina Dolores was relentless. And I realized I had to take matters into my own hands. I had to help you escape that marriage without losing your assets or reputation. I found the perfect solution. She dies from a rare poison. You inherit everything as her legal husband, plus the insurance payout. A short mourning period, and then you're free. Free to build a real family. God, Mom. I heard the horror in Rodrigo's voice. You really wanted to kill Isabel, my wife? Don't look at me like that. Saraphina Dolores' voice turned hard. I did this for you. Only for you. It was the perfect plan. The poison in the watch was supposed to be absorbed slowly, causing symptoms similar to pneumonia or severe flu. No one would have suspected poisoning. But your darling wife ruined everything when she went to that damned watchmaker and he, old fool, decided to take the watch apart. Who disassembles such expensive watches for no reason? And Marissol. Rodrigo's voice trembled. Why did you kill Mari? What did she ever do to you? She knew, Saraphina Dolores replied simply. She figured it out. She came to me after Isabel was taken to the hospital. Started asking questions, said it was strange, to give her that specific model she had dreamed of for years and it just happened to be poisoned. What a coincidence. Highly unlikely. Whoever gave the watch had to know Isabel would wear it with pride. And who knew that? Me, you, and maybe a couple of close people. Too small a circle of suspects. Your Marissol started digging, and she might have uncovered the truth. I couldn't allow that. So you just came and poisoned her? Rodrigo sounded like he was about to be sick. Not just like that, his mother said, a note of pride in her voice. I planted a gift, a bottle of the finest perfume, with a sprayer modified to release toxic vapors. That fool probably used it right away, sprayed herself, delighted in the scent. I calculated the dose for a delayed effect. She died in her sleep. I felt nausea rising in my throat. Such coldness, such calculation. Saraphina Dolores spoke of murder like she was reciting a cake recipe. Mama. Rodrigo's voice cracked. Do you even understand what you've done? You killed someone, and you tried to kill Isabel. That's a crime. You will go to prison. Only if someone talks. Her voice turned wheedling again. Rodrigo, sweetheart, no one knows. Just you and me. We can keep this a secret. I'll disappear, go abroad, vanish there, and you can move on. No one will ever find out. But I'll know. Rodrigo said firmly. And Isabel will too. Because she's not asleep, she heard everything. I realized it was time to end the charade. Slowly, pretending to have just woken up, I sat up in bed and rubbed my eyes. What's going on? I asked, trying to sound groggy and confused. Rodrigo? Saraphina Dolores? What are you doing in the bedroom? My mother-in-law stared at me with undisguised hatred. Her usually polished, composed face contorted in a grimace of rage. You, she hissed. You ruined everything with your existence, your presence in my son's life. You're not worthy of him. You never were. Mama, stop. Rodrigo stepped between us, as if to shield me from her fury. It's over. You confessed to murder. You confessed to attempted murder. The police heard everything. Surrendering is your only option. Police? Saraphina Dolores looked around, as if trying to spot hidden officers. What are you talking about? The apartment is wired, Rodrigo explained. This was a sting operation to catch you. Isabel and I agreed to help. And you fell for it, Mama. You confessed to everything. Her face froze in shock for a moment, then twisted into a mask of rage. With lightning speed, she pulled something from her bathrobe pocket, a small bottle, like a perfume vial. Then you'll die together, she screamed, pointing the bottle at us. But Rodrigo was faster. In one bound, he crossed the distance and knocked the bottle from her hand. It rolled under the bed, and he grabbed her arms, holding her in place. Let go of me, you ungrateful child, she shrieked, struggling. After everything I did for you. I gave you life, and this is how you repay me? At that moment, the bedroom door burst open and police officers, led by Jose Enrique, stormed in. They swiftly restrained Saraphina Dolores and handcuffed her. She didn't resist, only looked at Rodrigo with a gaze full of infinite disappointment and pain. You chose her over me, she said quietly as they led her out of the room. You betrayed your mother for this insignificant woman. You'll regret this, Rodrigo. Very soon, you'll regret it. As the door closed behind Saraphina Dolores, the room fell into oppressive silence. I sat on the bed, still unable to believe what had just happened. Rodrigo stood at the window, staring outside with a vacant look. Are you okay? I finally asked. I don't know, he replied honestly, without turning around. My mother is a murderer. She killed the woman I loved. She tried to kill the woman I married. How can I possibly be okay after that? I stayed silent, not knowing what to say. No words could ease the pain he was feeling. Then Jose Enrique entered the room. His face was serious, but satisfied. The operation was a success, he said. We have a full confession from Saraphina Dolores. She admitted to killing Marissol and attempting to kill Isabel. Plus, we recovered another murder weapon, a modified perfume bottle containing the poison. The trial will be a mere formality. What kind of sentence is she facing? Rodrigo asked quietly. Given the severity, premeditation, and cruelty of the crimes, life imprisonment, Jose Enrique said in a businesslike tone. Her lawyers will probably argue for a lighter sentence due to age or possible mental illness, but she won't get less than 20 years. Rodrigo nodded, his face unreadable. I understood what was happening in his soul, a mix of relief that the danger was over and horror at the realization that his own mother had committed such monstrous crimes. We're done here, the inspector continued. Our team will now dismantle the surveillance equipment. You're free to stay here, or if you prefer, we can arrange another location for you for the next few days. Thank you. We'll decide on our own, I answered for both of us, since Rodrigo seemed unable to make decisions. Jose Enrique nodded and left, leaving us alone. We sat in silence for a long time, each lost in thought. What now? Rodrigo finally asked, turning to me. Now, we each go our separate ways, I said calmly, without anger or bitterness. We'll file for divorce, divide the assets, and try to move on. Couldn't we try again? He asked softly, a trace of hope in his voice. I know I hurt you, betrayed you, but maybe we could try? I shook my head. No, Rodrigo. Too much has happened, too much pain, lies, betrayal. We can't pretend none of it happened, that you didn't love Marissol, that your mother didn't try to kill me. That will always stand between us. It's better to let each other go and move forward. He looked at me for a long time, then nodded, accepting the truth. I understand. I'm sorry, Isabel. For everything. Truly. I forgive you. And it was true, in that moment, I really did let go of the anger, the pain, the betrayal, not for him, but for myself, to move forward without carrying that weight. And I hope, one day, you can forgive yourself. And your mother. I don't know. He turned away, but I saw the tears in his eyes. I don't know if I ever will. That day, Rodrigo and I parted not as husband and wife, not as enemies, but as two people who had survived a tragedy together and decided to walk separate paths. I moved in with Patricia, a colleague from university who kindly offered me a place to stay while I figured out what to do next. 2 months later, the trial of Saraphina Dolores took place. I was there, sitting in the courtroom, watching as the once elegant, commanding woman had become a gaunt, aged shadow. She never showed remorse, claiming until the end that everything she did was out of love for her son. She was sentenced to 25 years in prison, given her age of 62, essentially a life sentence. Rodrigo sat through the trial detached, as if it had nothing to do with him. After the sentencing, he approached me in the courthouse hallway. You were right, he said, staring past me into the distance. There's no way we could be together after everything that happened. I'm leaving the city, maybe even the country. I need to start fresh, somewhere no one knows me. Somewhere without all these memories. I nodded, understanding his decision. Good luck, Rodrigo. I hope you find your happiness. And you too, he said, looking me in the eyes for the first time in a long while. You deserve happiness, Isabel, more than anyone I know. That was the last time we saw each other. I later heard he had indeed left the country, Canada, they said. Every now and then, I caught snippets of news. He had joined some investment firm, made a name for himself. Nothing ever mentioned his personal life, whether he remarried, had children. As for me, I wasn't in a rush to start a new relationship. The pain of betrayal was still too fresh, the memory of placing my trust in someone who didn't deserve it too vivid. I threw myself into work, got promoted at the university, became head of department, and used the proceeds from selling the apartment Rodrigo and I once shared to buy a small but cozy place of my own. I adopted a cat, a fluffy ginger puff named Tapazio, who greeted me at the door each evening and fell asleep purring on my lap. Sometimes I'd find myself thinking of Marissol, how everything had turned out so tragically. My best friend, the one I shared my deepest secrets with, fell in love with my husband behind my back and ended up murdered by his mother, who thought she was protecting her son. Despite her betrayal, I couldn't bring myself to hate Mari. Death washes away many sins, and a death like hers, cruel and undeserved, even more so. I'd talk to her in my mind sometimes, as if she could still hear me, tell her about my life, about the world, and believe she understood. A year after that terrible birthday, I visited her grave, left flowers, and stood silently in front of the photo where she smiled that open, sunlit smile only she had. I forgive you, I said. I hope you found peace. And I hope you forgive me too, for not being able to protect you. On my way back, I stopped by Adolfo Macario's watch shop. The old man greeted me warmly, sat me down, made tea. He looked the same, thin, sprightly, with bright eyes behind thick glasses. "How have you been?" he asked, studying me closely. "Have you recovered from all that horror?" Little by little, I smiled. "Life goes on, no matter what." "As it should," he nodded approvingly. "Time doesn't stop. The clock ticks on, and we have to keep moving." "What happened to the Arfelio watch? Was it destroyed as evidence?" "Yes," I said, instinctively rubbing my wrist, remembering the delicate band. "It was destroyed after the trial, as required by law." "A shame," he sighed. "Such beauty, such craftsmanship, wasted because of jealousy and spite." I didn't remind him that beauty had nearly cost me my life. The watch wasn't to blame, it was merely a tool. The blame lay with the person who chose to use it as a weapon. Before I left, I thanked Adolfo Macario for his insight, his vigilance, his quick thinking. If not for him, I might not be alive. "Nonsense," he waved me off, embarrassed. "Anyone in my place would have done the same. I know watches like the back of my hand. I see immediately when something's wrong." As a parting gift, he gave me a small pocket watch on a chain, antique, with a beautiful engraving on the lid. "It belonged to my grandmother," he said. "She lived to 97, full of energy and optimism. Maybe it'll bring you luck too." I was deeply moved. Accepting such a gift, a family heirloom from someone almost a stranger, felt wrong, but Adolfo insisted. "I have no children," he said simply. "No one to pass it on to. But you saved that legacy when you brought me the Arfelia. Another watchmaker might not have noticed the danger, and then you would have died, and with you, my grandmother's memory. So please, take it. It's fate." I accepted the watch with gratitude and promised to cherish it. Since then, it has always been with me, in my purse, in my coat pocket, sometimes around my neck on a long chain. A little talisman, a reminder of how fragile life is and how precious every second can be. 2 more years passed. I gradually learned how to live again, to trust, to explore the world. It wasn't easy after everything I'd endured, but I refused to become a recluse. At the university, a new history professor joined the staff, Rafael Consuelo, an expert on ancient civilizations. Tall, slender, with thin-framed glasses and a pinkish beard. He was 7 years older than me, divorced, no children. We met at a faculty meeting, then bumped into each other in the library, later in the cafeteria. Rafael was the opposite of Rodrigo, reserved, a bit awkward, with a gentle sense of humor and vast knowledge. He could talk for hours about Mesopotamian rituals or Incan mysteries, and it was never boring. Our relationship evolved slowly, first colleagues, then friends, then something more. We talked, laughed, visited museums, went to the theater. He read poetry, not romantic sonnets, but ancient epics, cryptic and beautiful. I told him everything about Rodrigo, the betrayal, the poisoned watch, the trial. He listened without interrupting, then simply took my hand and said, "You're stronger than you think, Isabel. And I admire you." Looking into his eyes, serious but warm, I realized that maybe, just maybe, life was offering me a second chance. We married a year and a half after we met, quietly, no pomp, just close friends and family. My parents were finally able to feel truly happy for me, seeing me with someone who genuinely loved and respected me. A year later, our son Artemio was born, a tiny miracle with reddish fuzz on his head and a serious gaze, just like his father's. Doctors had warned the pregnancy might be difficult, but it went surprisingly smoothly, as if my body had finally embraced motherhood with joy. Sometimes, rocking my son to sleep, I'd reflect on the strange turns of fate, how the Arfelio watch, designed to kill, had paradoxically become the start of a new life. If not for that terrifying birthday gift, I would have stayed in ignorant bliss, in a marriage without love, with a best friend who betrayed me, under the shadow of a mother-in-law who hated me. I'm not thankful to Saraphina Dolores for her monstrous act, never. But I acknowledge the twisted irony of life, which sometimes uses the darkest paths to lead us into the light. Today I am 35. I look in the mirror and see not just a reflection, but a woman who has survived betrayal, pain, fear, and come out the other side stronger, wiser, more human. I see a wife, a mother, a teacher, a friend, a person who has found her place in the world, and her happiness. In my bag, the antique pocket watch from Adolfo Macario still ticks. Sometimes I take it out, open the lid, and listen to its steady beat, time, relentless and unstoppable. It doesn't wait for us to heal, it doesn't slow for our joy, it just moves forward, second by second, hour by hour. And our task is to live each moment in a way that leaves no regrets at the end. On my 30th birthday, my husband gave me an expensive watch I had dreamed of for 2 years. But within an hour of putting it on, I began to feel worse and worse. That same day, I took it to a watchmaker I knew. When he opened it, he nearly screamed in horror and said, "Go to the police, now." Who could have guessed that moment would change everything, that it would destroy the life I knew, but also lead me to true happiness? Life is like a watch mechanism, complex, precise, sometimes merciless. But when it works, every cog fits into place, every hand moves as it should. And in the end, even the darkest hour gives way to dawn, and the ticking continues, counting the seconds of a new life. One with pain and joy, loss and discovery, past and future. And I am grateful for every beat of that eternal metronome, for every second life has given me, because now I understand the value of time. And I cherish it more than anyone.
If you're enjoying it as well, leave a like and subscribe to the channel.